Greetings and welcome back to another edition of Pan-African Digest. Today I come to you with what I hope will be the my final say on the unfortunate xenophobic incident that happened in Ghana recently. It was such a disturbing incident that I wrote 3 articles on the subject. 2 of them were written together with my friend Andy Kwahukume. I'm very grateful to you, Andy. It's really disturbed us so much that we had a problem handling it. That despite all the effort, all the education all the information we've been putting out for the past 4 decades, we still have Africans, especially West Africans, who still think xenophobic. I'm going to do this podcast. I've written a blog post. I'm going to share it with you, and hopefully we'll learn our lessons and we'll try to move forward. The blog post I wrote was, I call it Final Piece on African Xenophobes. As usual, I try to do some basic education. I'm telling people what history, what culture, what Pan-African means. Unfortunately, most of the videos I saw on TikTok and on YouTube were really very disturbing. Africans calling themselves Aboasem, Gwaziasem, and why are those things necessary? First, we begin with these definitions of patriotism, of nationalism, of whatever. Before people start waving flag and running up and down and insulting their fellow Africans, do they really understand what nationalism means? Do they understand what it means to be patriotic? Do they know the difference between nation and country and state? Let me try to give some education here. A country simply means a space, a territorial space recognized by international law as an entity. That is what it means. Ghana is a country, Nigeria is a country, Kenya is a country. Because the territorial space of Ghana is recognized, well demarcated, and is enshrined in the Constitution, and it is recognized by international law. By such definition, Ghana is a country. On the other hand, a nation needs not only a territorial space, but it has to have common culture, history, and possibly language. In Africa, we are still doing our best to create nations from the disparate groups we put together in countries. What we have in Africa are artificial creations by European category. In 1884 to 85, they had a conference called by the German leader, Bismarck. He invited his fellow European leaders to come to a table where they saw African as a big slab, a big beef to be carved up. Without recourse, without recognizing culture, custom, languages, or whatever, Europeans sliced Africa into this geographical, nice geometric lines we see across the continent today. Divided it among themselves. Ghana, Nigeria, Sierra Leone were given to the British, the Gambia included, and the rest were passed out to the French. Cameroon was formerly German, and later, because of war, it became it was UN trustee. But the whole of Africa was divided without any African present. That is the tragic things we don't even appreciate today in Africa, or most of us refuse to appreciate. The only logic we see in the African map today is only colonial. Oh, Leopold wanted the Congo. Oh, no problem, take it. The first expanse of territory in the Congo was given to a Belgian king. He killed 10 million Africans because they were not producing enough ivory and rubber for him. These stories are not being told by our people, being taught in our schools. We lost so much because of this intervention, because of this balkanization of Africa. And today we celebrate the destruction of Africa. We celebrate our own destruction by waving a stupid flag and shouting xenophobic nonsense against our African people, our African brothers and sisters. It is a very sad situation. That is why it disturbs so many of us that we keep on talking about it. It doesn't give us any pleasure to keep writing and making blog posts about this thing. It's really, really unfortunate. And we blame both our leaders, not only the political ones, but also the people in charge of our education. Why are our people not being taught our history? Why do they not understand what we went through, so that we become sober, so that we appreciate the enormity of the tragedy that befell us? Let's take the example of Nigeria. We have the Yorubas, the three big tribes, the three big nations. Let's stop calling them tribes: Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba. The Yorubas are found not only in Nigeria, but across the border in both Benin and Togo. So the Europeans didn't consider the culture, the language, the whatever of what the Yorubas have in common, had in common. They just sliced them into three separate countries. So today, I'm by my passport or whatever, I'm a Nigerian. If I cross to Benin Republic, I am a foreigner. The funny thing is that in Benin, Cotonou, they speak my language. I understand that we share the same culture, we wear the same dress, we do the same ceremonies, we have the same ceremonies. But I'm considered a foreigner because I carry a different passport. If I move to Kano, I don't speak Hausa. I don't share anything in common with the Hausas. But I'm a Nigerian. I'm a fellow citizen with them. The same thing happens if I go to Enugu. I don't speak Igbo. I have no linguistic or cultural relationship with the Igbos. But the people with whom I share culture, with whom I share language, are considered foreigners. And we don't seem to appreciate this in Africa. It doesn't seem to bother us. The same, the Akan people were sundered, were divided between Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. They even changed their name to French to make it sound French. And we don't seem to have any problem with that. We don't see the calamity. At this time, we start to put on our thinking cap. And in this, I will urge those in charge of our education to try and begin to teach African history, African culture, to include them in our syllabus. It is time, instead of waving stupid flag, it is time for us to try and travel around West Africa. We travel around West Africa. What do we see? We see people with the same culture, with the same aspiration, with the same mentality, with the same way of doing things. If those who are waving flags and using their chipo phones to insult people on the TikTok, we just travel to Lagos. They should go to where they call the Agege area of Lagos. What do you find there? You find the Ghanaian, the lingua franca. There is Akan. You find the Ghanaians going around about their business. Why not? They're surviving. How many of them would like to come back to Ghana to come and do what? They got settled there. They go there, you find what they call agege bread. It's a Ghanaian business. They made better bread than Nigerians because of the varieties. And the Ghanaians dominated what they call you call it buffrot here. In Nigeria, they call it puff puff. Those are Ghanaian businesses. So I will tell a story. When I was in Lagos in the 1970s, I think the richest man around Surulere then was Mr. Ishipaini. He's, I think, if I remember correctly, he owns the only private zoo in Lagos then, at the Surulere. Ishipaini was a Ghanaian. He found a home in Nigeria and he built his business. We thought it, who cares? At the University of Lagos then, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos, Akoko, was Professor Adadefo. He was a Ghanaian. He was a brilliant scholar. He got his post on merit. Who cares? Many Ghanaians actors and actresses have gone to Nigeria to build their career. Yeah. If you are good, why not? Go and sell your skill. So instead of wasting your time using your shippo phone to be insulting, why don't you develop the skills that you can sell across the border? Instead of looking at the 13 or so million Ghanaian market, why don't you think bigger? Think about the 500 or so million in West Africa. I'm devoting my time more to ECOWAS, which is the sub-region where we have this xenophobic problem recently. Instead of looking at the bigger market in West Africa and see what you can do to make a living or build yourself up. You went for your shippo Chinese movie and then start insulting people. Are those the only thing you can do for yourself? After a hard battle, Ghana was given the opportunity or the honor to hold the secretariat of the African Free Trade Area, AFTA. The secretariat in Ghana, it is supposed to enable Africans to build a free trade area instead of supporting the government initiative. You are rather going around insulting people, insulting fellow Africans. So, what do you bring to the table? That is the question you should ask yourself. Get some education, get some vocation that you can sell. Of course, it's a good. It makes you feel better to get a like or uptick on TikTok, on Facebook, on YouTube. But for how long? If you are asked to bring something to the table, what can you, Mr. Patriotic Nigerian must go agitated, what do you bring to the table? What do you bring to the table to sell? What skills do you have apart from your ability to insult? Insulting on Facebook or on TikTok, why don't you take a trip around West Africa? Go to the grand marchés we have in the French-speaking area. I think it's big markets, grand marchés. You find Africans relating to each other on a friendly basis. They have no problem with that. They come together to do whatever business they are doing. They are comrades, they are friends, they are whatever. As we have to say in Yoruba, Ojo orun tu eye fo lai fara agbara. It means that the sky is big enough for all the birds to fly without touching wings. Who is stopping you from developing yourself so that you have skills that you can peddle and not only TikTok insults? Go and learn a trade that you can take across the border and make money, make your money, make your living. During the unfortunate incident, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs released a figure that 500,000 Ghanaians are registered in Nigeria. Those are the registered ones. So, I mean, just imagine it. They're making a living there because they find a niche they could exploit. Why don't you think like that? How is waving flag and insulting people helping your matter? How is that developing you? Think about the proverb I just told you. The sky is big enough for all the birds to fly without touching wings. As long as no one is sitting on your neck, go out and find yourself. Go out and find yourself some useful job to do. If I give the example of Casaprego, the distillery in Ghana, instead of thinking about only the Ghanaian market, should this company expand to West Africa, many Ghanaians will be employed, and the company will be running 24/7. The owners will be smiling all the way to the bank. So instead of limiting our thinking, instead of limiting our rising, why don't we not expand it? No. Pan-Africanism, as advocated by Marcus Garvey and his best-known apostle, Kwame Nkrumah, does not advocate the loving of Nigeria, of loving Kenyans, or loving South Africa, or loving Somalia. No, it is for the survival of Africa. Marcus Garvey and Kwame Nkrumah understood that the world is a very cruel and unforgiving space. It will not forgive those small prey. It will eat them up. We see today that it's like a prophecy which has come true. China is a very big country. It has the world's largest economy now, by PPP, instead of GDP. But what is China doing? It's building institutions, creating strategic partnership with regional blocks. It has a SEO. It's a member of BRICS. China alone is big enough to fend for itself, but the Chinese leaders knew that they will always need alliances. They will always need external partners. They will always need organizations to support them. As big as they are building all these organizations. And here we are trying to dismantle the small organization that we have with our stupid xenophobic attacks. Pan-Africanism does not mean that you should love this or that. It's not a romantic thing at all. Kwame Nkrumah advocated for us to have what he called the African High Command. We refuse to listen. Today, we are struggling with civil and uncivil wars all over Africa. Can you imagine Africa with 1 million militaries, standby military? Which force can face us? So instead of having our small army, national army and national army there, why didn't we listen to Nkrumah and establish an African High Command? The Europeans, they didn't form NATO because they love themselves. They formed NATO because they want to be strong. And we see the AFOC they are working on our continent. So they are already strong militarily. They are stronger than us, but they came together and united because they want to survive, because they want to make a living in the world. They knew that if they don't have strong military unity, either China or Russia will eat them up. That is what it means. The same thing with their EU. Bulgarian, Belgians, Netherlands, Spaniards, they didn't come to form EU because they love themselves. They have had more wars than what we had in Africa. But they knew that their economic survival depends on their unity. So we have the case here now where this they are really developed economies, many of them. But they knew that they could not compete on individual basis with strong countries like China. So they formed the European Union, which gave them a very strong position in addressing the world. So in Africa now we have the situation where we have president or prime minister going to Berlin to go and negotiate. It's a joke. Because first, to begin with, the budget of each of the federal state of Germany is bigger than that of Togo. So you have the Togolese president or minister going to negotiate with Germany. That's not all. Germany doesn't negotiate trade alone these days. It is done through the European Union. So you are there with your jacket and your tie, sitting down with 27 European ministers. What are you bringing to the table? Not even Nigeria or South Africa or Egypt with their larger, bigger economy can face the EU. But if we go as ECOWAS, then we have a stronger chance of getting better deals. That is what Pan-African means. Our economic survival depends on our unity. Period. Did you ask yourself before you start waving this xenophobic flag, what made it possible for you to call United States cheaper than to call Togo? What makes it possible for African to travel to Europe before they can get connections? I was told a story by one of Ghanaian entrepreneurs that his shipment of Alata soap to Liberia has to be routed through Spain because there's no connection between Ghana and Liberia, which is just one country away. These are questions we're not asking ourselves. Why do you need to get dollars or euro before a Ghanaian entrepreneur can trade with Cote d'Ivoire? We're not bothered with those simple questions. Why can't you use our telephone to call fellow Africans cheaper than calling Europe? No, it's not about loving Africa, it's about you thinking about these important questions we are raising. Get yourself some education. It will be better for all of us. So instead of wasting your time, your data, shouting Kwasasemo or Adubasemo on TikTok or Facebook, try to get proper education. And try to understand that your fellow Africans are not your problem. Your problem is lack of education. Your problem is lack of deep thinking. Put your thinking cap on. That is my message for today. Once again, I say thank you to those of you who are supporting our efforts. Please help us to share the video, help us to share our blog post, and please keep on supporting us. Until next time, I come your way with another edition. I say, Ireo.